And welcome everybody to Casually Hardcore episode 9. I am pleased and very excited to introduce a man who needs no introduction, a part of Phonix Down Radio, a part of PlayStation Universe, as both a podcaster and a reviewer for the website as well. Chile UK, thank you so much for joining us on episode 9 of Casually Hardcore.
No problem. Thank you for having me on, man.
So, go ahead.
I've watched a few of you casting before, and I'm a fan of your streaming, so it means a lot to be on the show.
Thank you very much. I just want to say, 3 years for Phonix Down Radio. You guys just celebrated that huge milestone. No small feat. Talk to me a little bit, because essentially, because I just kind of said what you did. I'd like you to share a little bit about what you do with the podcast, but also with PlayStation Universe as a website. And then finally, as kind of a whole encompassing idea, what are you playing right now? Whether it's for review for the magazine or for fun, whether it's in 14 or not. The floor is yours, man.
Well, basically, Phonix Down Radio, I joined 2.5 years ago. I was a huge fan of the podcast. I'd been around since episode 2 as a viewer of the show. Mm-hmm. But after some unfortunate circumstances with a couple of the hosts, they asked for me to be a guest host. Well, as a person who'd done previous podcasts and had the previous experience with PlayStation Universe, I decided, yeah, sure, I'm a fan of the game. I'd love to have a chance to talk about it. But yeah, that's how I started on Phonix Down Radio, and it's just grown ever since.
So how long, for those who don't know, how long have you been playing Final Fantasy 14?
I purchased 1.0. I got the collector's edition of 1.0.
Were you in the beta at all?
Yeah.
So you and I go way back then.
And then I was in the alpha test.
Oh, you beat me. You beat me then, because I was not able to get into the alpha and which is fun to think about, because the alpha had a different battle system than beta.
Yeah, and, it had a completely different battle system. It was weird. And I remember the alpha had Copper Bell. I think it was Copper Bell. No. I can't remember that. Tamtara. Tamtara was the dungeon in the alpha. And it actually had a boss that we don't have in the full game.
Do you remember the boss?
It was a headless giant.
Okay. Wow. We haven't even ever seen that model.
You have. It's the headless iron giants.
Oh, the headless iron giant. Okay, so I was thinking. Yeah. Okay, I was thinking for some reason a Cyclops as a giant, but that's my fault.
So yeah, it was one of those.
Wow. Okay, so on that, shifting onto that though, because it's you look at 14, it's we've seen a lot of battle system changes over the life of it, from alpha to beta to even within 1.0. There was a couple of big shifts. I remember when they added auto attack. That was a huge benefit. I
hated 1.0 constantly clicking to attack. It was just no.
I mean, you kind of still do, but auto attack as a base was just kind of this base level of damage that went out. And the thing was, it was I can either talk to you guys in text chat or I can die. And I can talk and die, or I can be completely quiet and live, because there's so I remember that, because it took off a little bit of pressure, because it's if I needed to respond to something, I was okay, at least my guy's still putting out damage. I'm not going to necessarily just completely stomp doing
I'm going to tell you now that I think that's one of the reasons why Eureka's failed.
Oh yeah? Go ahead.
Because
expand on that.
Tries to emulate. Sorry for going too much ahead.
No, you're good. This is a conversational podcast. We'll go any direction. You never know.
It tries to emulate 11 too much.
Okay.
But 11 was a much slower paced game, so you could chat while partying. Mm-hmm. It was more of a social aspect. You could
It requires that you're in voice chat or you're in another activity as a part of it. And people will debate, and they'll get frustrated by people who just kind of hang out with the NMs. And it's I'm not doing it. I'm not standing around waiting for NMs to pop. I'm not a part of the train. But that's the thing. I'm not doing the content. And we'll dive more into detail of that, because there's a huge part of this podcast that I think needs to be addressed, and it's more about the dialogue in the community and basically figuring out what we want and being able to provide that feedback to the devs, because I think personally there's a feeling that I get that, and it could be that it's not even about me. It's that maybe I'm super in the minority when it comes to this kind of feedback. But then again, I think the worst thing we can do is stop communicating to them and telling them what we want. That's the worst thing
we can do.
So yeah, you're right. Like when I was in here, I was doing Eureka and I was doing it as a healer. I was the party lead. All of those things led to be a horrible, kind of thing all together. And the reason I say that is that I was trying to recruit people into my party, and so I'm either recruiting or letting people die. You're not going to be talking because Final Fantasy XIV is way faster. Now, and which is good. Like, it's like I don't want them to go and be like, okay, you're just going to auto attack, and eventually you're going to build up the TP to perform one real big move. But because of that, because you're moving and moving and moving, it's like I can't sit here and stop and type, and so you're relegated to a voice thing. Now, what is interesting, what is real positive about it, is the shout chat. Typically, as long as it doesn't get too toxic, which I've seen some. It depends on the day and the people. Really bad. Yeah, you're going to see a lot more just communication outside of party where people are talking about where is this happening or what's this, and they're theorizing and stuff like that. So there is definitely a positive side that's brought in with the community. With anything that's challenging or grinding, you can kind of see that. I want to dive into some more of your thoughts on that here in a bit. So I'm going to shift back though. So what are you playing right now?
I'm taking a break from 14.
How long have you been on a break?
Oh, a few weeks now, at least a month.
Okay.
Almost, because my Savage group's pretty much cleared the content. My jobs are maxed out. Mm-hmm. Overall, I have less reason to log in.
Okay.
Which, as someone who loves the game, I hate. I want to have a reason to keep logging in.
Literally, I did not know that. So it's so fortuitous that you're on this podcast, because it's like, that's good to know. So while you're on break from 14, like, are you either playing anything really that you're enjoying, or are you excited about? Because I know a lot of people talked about Spider-Man. Being that you work for PSU, is that something that's on your radar or you're playing?
Oh yeah, I'm really looking forward to Spider-Man on Friday. Yeah. But to be honest, I've got a backlog of games that because I've been addicted to 14, I haven't had a chance to play.
So what are you playing? What are you getting caught up
right now, I'm playing the new Naruto to Boruto Shinobi Striker.
Yeah. Talk to me about that game. Like, what do you like about it, and give me some more information, because I'm not big into those type of games personally.
I guess it's because for me, I love putting myself in the universe of like anime shows that I like.
Okay.
The reason why I like Xenoverse, because you got custom characters.
Mm-hmm.
With this, you got custom characters in the Naruto universe.
Yeah.
So I like the idea of making my fanfic story sort of thing.
Yeah.
In the canon universe. But not really. So, it's kind of weird. But yeah, it's a MOBA style game, which is again why it's interested me, because it's a 4v4 take on MOBA.
Okay.
Like you got capture the flags, capture the base, so forth. Then you got your standard MOBA sort of range, deep defense, healer, attacker.
So what do you normally play? Do you play like all the different roles that they offer, or do you end up playing a certain type of role?
I often play defensive role because, I enjoy it more. But I often go troll healer because I'll just run around in circles.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's ninjas, it's fast paced. Okay. So I end up just running around while the attacker's trying to attack me, healing my team.
What main jobs or whatever do you play in 14? When
14, my main is monk.
Okay. Oh, okay. That's okay. So you're. Yeah. I was wondering to see if there was a kind of a parallel, or it seems like not only different game type, but also different kind of role in general. Have you ever tried to do healing or
I've
defensive?
Tried healing, and my main before the static was paladin.
Okay.
But because the static that invited me already had tanks, already had healers.
That's how I always have felt like, and when talking with some people like in our own Discord community, it's that we have a huge collection of tanks and healers. And it's like ends up being like, oh, well, we need some DPS. And so it's like it seems disproportional to what people usually constantly say.
Everyone's
like they need
we
a tank
can't
or
find
healer.
healers, and we're like,
oh really? Like
really?
we can't find
already,
DPS.
I guess we already have them.
we've locked them down. Like we signed them to a 5-year agreement, and exclusive. It's like I can only raid unless they have the tag. Not really, not at all. Like we're super cash. When it comes
Same with us
that.
though. With most of our raid group will do like, try and learn it, and then once we've learned it, we'll start running it more of a static.
Okay.
So with the next tier, chances are our tank will join Pugs after our first few runs, because that way he'll learn the fight and then help us through it.
Okay, that's nice.
So we're not like, oh no, you're in here for life, no more.
You're done, son. You locked it. We locked it down. We put a ring on it. For me, been just really yesterday, just playing a lot of Dragon Quest XI. And,
that was so good.
Oh, dude, I cannot. Dragon Quest is such an important franchise to me. It's one of the reasons why I love Final Fantasy. It's the first RPG. It's what hooked me on RPGs. And it was Dragon Quest 1 that it was just phenomenal, and Dragon Quest 2 just like it blew my mind as a kid. It just blew me away.
It was Final Fantasy 7.
Yes. I could say Dragon Quest 2 was kind of my Final Fantasy 7 moment of that franchise. Like, oh my gosh, like, is this possible? Just the moment where, like, because I remember going from 1 to 2, and this is before I really was even into Final Fantasy. I didn't get into Final Fantasy until Final Fantasy 4. I have since gone back and played the others. But I played 1. I did not like it. It was like,
really?
I did not like 1 when I originally played it.
So weird. I actually really like 1.
Yeah. Well, it's like when I first got I don't know. I think maybe I even tried that before Dragon War. I got Dragon Warrior as a part of my Nintendo Power subscription as a kid. And I just really loved that the aspect. I guess I even liked the perspective. The first where you're looking at the monster. And then how it all worked. I remember just casting Sleep on the skeletons at level 7. That was a huge game-changing ability that I remember learning. But I really enjoyed that. And then when 2 came out, and you actually had party members, it was like kind of that experience. And then you had to go on a quest to find these party members. And the one that when you had to free the Princess of Moonbrook from her being turned into a dog with the Mirror of Ra. I was like, as a kid, I was just like, this is insane. Like, this is so cool. And this is before the internet. This is before all of these things. And so all of a sudden, I now had a party of 3. And it was like, oh my gosh, I can do all of these different things. So that was definitely that moment. And already right at the gate, Dragon Quest XI hits me both in the nostalgia feels, but it just feels, and if they can continue this emotion, and it's highly possible that I'm having more of an emotional response to the whole thing. If they can continue this emotion throughout the entire 100 or 60 to 100 hour experience into the post game, I think it's 60 hours to clear, and then they got probably a 40-hour post game.
Which all those mini medals.
You get those mini medals, man. Yeah, absolutely. It's so interesting though. It's just that where Final Fantasy is connected in theme, some of the Dragon Quest games are connected by world and lore and story. Yeah. So there is some kind of continuation of the story, which is fascinating. So
weren't you talking last night that 1, 2, and 3 were kind of connected?
They are connected, and 11 is connected to 1, 2, and 3. Yeah. Now, I'm not going to sit here and start to speculate why or how. I don't want to ruin it for anybody who's just coming into this and be like, oh my God, I don't want to know. But there is a video up on the channel talking about the story and lore of 1, 2, and 3, and then it goes into my speculation. If you guys want to check it out, I'll try to include a link in the description below of this video, if at all possible that you guys want to go to that. So that is what I am playing. I've also been playing Octopath Traveler. I've been playing some games, but one of the things that's fun because I've been playing. I just started yesterday, but Maddie is in love with Dragon Quest as well. She loves the visual style. It's so interesting to see her respond to it. I'm to the point where not yet, but maybe in 10 years we'll be marathoning Dragon Ball together. Just because it's if you like this, there's just these themes. And my elevator pitch is if you like Chrono Trigger, the guy who wrote 90% of Chrono Trigger is the guy behind Dragon Quest. So,
and if you like Dragon Ball, the guy who did the art did Dragon Quest. This is pedigree. This is if you even think you might like a JRPG,
I think Dragon Quest XI is one, and the fact that it's on PC and PlayStation, I think gives you endless options of way to play it. And if you are still on the fence, it should be on Switch next year, hopefully. I don't expect it not to be, but we'll have to wait and see from there. So that is what I'm playing. Is there anything besides Naruto that you're playing, Chille, before we dive into the main?
A little bit of Warframe, and nothing I really can talk about review-wise because,
yeah, don't get yourself in trouble.
Troubles.
I was like, no. All right, so we're going to dive into our main topic, if I can find the transition. There it is. Cool, we're going to dive into our main topic. This episode is really dedicated as a giant level of community feedback. And if you guys aren't aware of what we do with community feedback, we take your comments that you make on the videos and we highlight them and we discuss them as well, because we believe in the conversation. We believe in dialogue, and it's important to us. It's as important as anything else. And we haven't done this on the podcast in a while, but based off of the themes of the video that I released called "Why Final Fantasy XIV is Dying," and then Thamriyell did a phenomenal response video. And he brought up some really good points. I think one of the main points that he brings up is that I didn't supply enough of my ideas on where I want to see them improve in the core of that main video. And I did that for specific reasons as to time. I think time is important. I can go and make a 60-hour video. You don't want a video
ridiculously long.
Right, yeah. And it could have been, because the video was already pushing into the 12-minute range. And it's like, I try to limit that. But to his point is that if you hadn't been seeing all of the, because I linked into it a playlist, I even reference it in the video. Yeah. If you haven't gone and actually seen those videos, it can seem like I'm just bashing the game, and so that's one of his points he made. A fair critique. I thought, it's like I was like, yeah, dude, you're absolutely 100% right. That I didn't spend enough time detailing out those different pieces of information. So with that, before we actually dive into comments. Chille, you've seen both videos, and I'm in your raw and honest opinion. Where do you fall? Like, what are your thoughts on and I really kind of summarize it as the state of Final Fantasy XIV. What is the current state of the game? And I'd love to know your thoughts. The floor is yours, and then we're going to dive into some comments.
I don't think it's dying. I don't think it's that harsh, but I will say that it's stale. It's got into a repetitive nature of what it feels is okay. It doesn't feel like it's taking the chances that it used to do with the when we got 2.0, where we got like risks. I feel like a lot of the content is just they know it's going to do well. It's going to be playable from the start. People are going to eat it up, but then it's just going to be the same old. And then when they do find something that's new and unique, say Palace of the Dead, Diadem, as much as people dislike Diadem, it did have its...
It was unique.
Yeah, it was unique. It was something new. It wasn't a dungeon. It wasn't a raid.
It's so close to what it's like when I look at the Diadem and the fact that they just kind of let it die. They just let the Diadem die. And I thought it would have been interesting as leveling content. I thought it could have been really well done. The problem is they don't even let you get into it unless you go into the city, unless you do these things. So there's automatically these barrier for entry. But continue. Because I like the Diadem was a risk. Eureka is a risk. So they are taking risks.
It just feels... Well, Eureka feels like Diadem evolved.
Yeah.
So it's a risk, but not really. Again, it's hard. I'm not a developer, so I can't tell you how much they want to risk because they want to make the money.
Yeah, I am a developer. I am a software engineer, and that's the problem that I feel like one of the things that I had to try to balance with the video. I didn't want to make it. It was based off of me live streaming and getting into a lot of conversations with the community. That eventually it's like, I've written the script, but I don't want to do it. I don't like to focus in on negative, kind of negative thought. I like to be more joyful, and it's funny because it's like some of the comments we're not actually highlighting them. I think one kind of makes reference to it. It's like all I see from work to game is negative videos. It's like I would probably venture to bet that all you do is watch negative videos, and now YouTube just thinks that you only like negative videos, so it's going to feed you those. Because over 1,000 videos, I've maybe been negative, like really critical of any kind of particular idea. maybe 6 times. So
and
I
I'm
think
going to defend you being negative anyway, because I'm really positive with the game.
Yeah.
And if you love something, you want to see it improve and better itself.
Yeah, absolutely. It's from that love.
It's not being mean. It's just
right.
You want to see it improve.
It would be the worst thing I could do is be quiet. That's kind of what the conclusion I came to, is that if I'm quiet and I don't tell them why I'm disappointed or why I'm frustrated with certain aspects of the game, and it's more that it's that, so people, like a lot of people, like, no, you saying Final Fantasy XIV is dying is harsh and it's alarmist, and I personally disagree with that assessment, because there's many ways to die, and I look at it that I look at it in the grand scheme of things. I look at it for kind of, you think of a 5-year plan, perfect on a 5-year anniversary. Like as much fun as cancer can be, cancer is a problem that doesn't necessarily kill somebody overnight. It's an underlying problem that builds up, and if not addressed, can end up being where a lot of people find themselves just overall disappointed. And one of the other themes that people did bring up, and we'll go in the comments here in a second, but is the concept that of burnout. And the thing that I would say, and then Thamriyell brings this up. Man, I wish he was here. Dang gum you, Tham.
Yeah. Where are you?
Is the idea of burnout? I would say that it's possible, and I bring that up in the video itself. It's possible, but I'd say this is unlike any burnout that I've ever experienced in any kind of game. If it is burnout, it's a whole different degree. Something it's experiencing for the first time. And so it's kind of like when you say that you're not a developer, that's where I'm worried that I am putting too much pressure or too many issues on them, because I see these things. I see it from an agile development methodology. I see the backlog of items that I need them. Like, oh man, if they just connected this piece and this piece and this, and then boom, all of a sudden with very minimal developer effort, boom, they're just moving forward, and all of a sudden you've got refreshed content. I kind of make reference to this in the Savage Plus idea, in which that you have Heaven on High, you have over 60 plus dungeons, blend those things together, and then just give it to me on a loop, and then we can go from there.
Oh, that would be fun. I'd like that. Yeah, progression. Yeah, I would love that. That would be fun.
Sorry, it's like I can hear Mikey somewhere in the background. I have no idea if he's showing up on the mic. The kid is awesome, but he's got a scream that literally can just like cut through butter. I guess butter is an easy thing to cut through. Cut through diamond. It's just like, something real hard. So Chille, so on that theme, so you kind of bring, you're on a break. You're talking about a raw. The core question is that if 5.0 is more of the same and only less than, because it's like, if you look at it from a pattern, we talk about ARR. We're both 1.0 guys. So it's the big, I think, hypocrisy that I feel, I feel hypocritical in that if my 1.0 self saw what we had today, he would beat me up. He'd be like, "Are you kidding me? Like, wait a minute, you could search the market boards? Oh wait, you have Summoner? You have Red Mage? You have all these things. What are you complaining about?" As a 1.0 player, like my 1.0 self would kick my butt.
Well, to be fair though, that's if anyone new look, my friends come back to the game after he's just finished A Realm Reborn.
Okay.
And that's why I've been logging in again recently, just to help him out, because he started up again. If you're coming in new, this won't feel so stale, because it's all new content for you.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with your 1.0 self. He'll come in and go, "Oh my God, you've got a samurai." Oh,
I agree.
I slice things, good time. But yeah. And then it's like, but because we've been playing it so long, we've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
To be fair, you talk about 5.0. I'm going to buy the collector's edition of 5.0.
Yeah, I will too.
Because even though I know it's the same dungeon, same raid, I play those games. The reason why I'm excited for 4.4.
Story.
Not because of the raid, the story.
Mm-hmm.
I want the story.
Yeah, the story.
Tasty
but
story.
The story, the zones, like the thing I look at it is that, and the point I make, and I think and this is just me, I think it's the most critical point, is, and when it all comes down to it, the content isn't designed for multiple play use. And that's where the question that I have is it supposed to be? Because I know they want to be able to allow you to take breaks, and they don't want to add in stress to make you feel like you have to constantly play this game and nothing else.
Yeah.
Because that's not good for the community. That's actually not good for our health.
No, that's not good for health at all.
Taking breaks and doing that, noble things, right? But like you said, you've leveled up all your jobs. You've done all the raids. You've done the content. And then you're upset because there's no real reason for you to go in and enjoy the game itself. And so when you talk about story, story's great, but you play through it once. Yeah, the zones are beautiful. And then once
visit them once.
You visit them, and then it's like, okay, well, what else can I do here? And that's what the beauty of Eureka is that I think Eureka is a solution because they haven't finished the technology behind making that just an open world zone. Because the reason we have matchmaking is because they want to be able to do the duty, like bring in, and because we can't across server just come into the same open world zone because they haven't done that yet. It makes sense the way they did Eureka. But same thing with Diadem. These would be beautiful open world zones that you could go in and do things, but you got to be able to pull from the bigger pool of the community. Otherwise, you just have lifeless zones. There's no point in making repeatable content that nobody does. And that's the other risk that I see as a developer, right? It's like, if they're going to go and invest in all this money and then they don't have the ability for people to go do it together because maybe Sargatanis doesn't care about it, but, Balmung does. Well, why can't, we're on the same data center. Let's get it. I think one of the problems is there's a technical hurdle. And when I look at and see interviews and Yoshi-P talks about being frustrated with the development and running into issues, it seems like maybe they're hitting more issues on their end, and they're probably, I feel like maybe there's a dissatisfaction they have in the game itself.
I remember this engine's really old.
Yes, it is. And it also has a lot of 1.0 code. But then...
Well, it's, if I'm rightly, the 1.0 engine's based on the Crystal engine.
Yeah, Crystal.
Which was based on...
And this one is a blend of Crystal and the Luminous engine.
Yeah.
It's a blend. They just kind of piecemealed it together.
Still, that's the Versus engine. I mean, technically, this is the most we've seen of Final Fantasy 15, the original Versus.
Yeah. So true. So true. So it's, I think essentially, like there's that kind of thing. And so I look at it from the idea of enjoyable, repeatable, because I think like somebody, it wasn't somebody, it was Thamriyell's in his video. He talks about if they added in a new tank and a healer. I think outside of gameplay mechanics, people tend to lean into the, like, we need a tank or a healer argument because they feel that that's going to solve queue times, and it won't. I would tank or heal more if there was a reason. We toss XP. So like we talked about story, we talked about the zones, and then at the end of the day, XP also has a cap. It has a limit to it. So there's a lot of systems in the game that actually have a hard endpoint until the next expansion.
It's why I would love to see a merit point style system from 11.
Yeah, and
you'll have a use for the XP in some way.
How long did you play 11?
7 years?
Yeah, I think we're in the same boat there as well. And so
I think I stopped just before.
I did not get the last expansion. That's where
a little bit after Wings of the Goddess had. No, I beat Wings of the Goddess.
Mm-hmm.
The one where it took you to level 99.
Yeah, like it's they introduced the Rune Fencer and the Geomancer. So they added I never played that one.
I was forced to stop before then.
Not
my choice.
On that, like I played that but for merit points, I agree. I just think that how you do that in today's world is that they could not impact your battle performance, but there's 1,000 quality of life things that they could do. And you can use those points on reduce teleport costs, increased movement speed, increased mount speed, increased whatever. And then that in and of itself would also I would pair it with a treasure coffer of something that every time you get a level's worth of XP, here's a nice little thing that you can open, and it's got fireworks and it's got junk that you don't care about. Maybe it's got some tomes. Maybe it's got this.
You're talking about kind of like the Destiny system where when you reach a level, you get an engram.
Yes, exactly. And as much as Destiny's had some issues, the engram thing in and of itself is cool. Now, the way they did it in 2, where they kind of were like, hey, let's go into the cash shop and stuff like that. But if nothing else, it was it's something that it's like, yeah, I'm level cap, but it's still, I'm playing and I'm gaining.
Well,
XP has value at cap.
People love glamours.
They do.
Why not have a selection of glamours in the treasure coffer when you level up?
Yeah, and then they can always add in more and more random things to that. Like when you talk about the loot pool, you can put exclusive stuff into it. Also, just add a number by my name. You know, how many times, like, oh, you're level 150 on warrior. It's like, yeah. Like, obviously, I'm level cap at 70, but you warrior a lot. It doesn't mean you're any good. But it's like, what are you playing? Like, it's all of a sudden that has value. Those are the core things. Like, when I look at it, and that's where it comes to 5.0, my concern, my biggest fear is like, and that's why I'm like, I don't feel like I'm burned out. I just feel like, and there's a couple things we'll get into just in a second. Midnight saying prestige. Yeah, it's a prestige level. It's pure cosmetic, but it's still, so, because it has to be, because if you make it where you have to battle, if you make it where you have to log in, it's going to add a lot of stress. All of a sudden, it's like, oh God, I got to keep, I got to level just so that when 4.4 drops, if I'm not level 200, whatever, no one's going to let me into Savage. They're like, oh, you got to be this. No. That would be poor. Also, that if people can't feel like they can take a break.
Even with prestige levels, we might still have that thing.
Oh, you might. And that's where there's a risk.
Look at the people that go, oh, I won't invite you to my Savage group unless you're purple plus.
Pop plus, diamond, double black diamond.
Yeah, in that FAQ logs or whatever it is.
And that is the risk of it. And that's where I think as a community, we have to figure out what we want with it. Because, if all of a sudden it's like you have to go and there's going to be requirements that mean that if you don't play, hundreds of hours a week on a job, then you're not worth it. That it could be a huge risk and a huge detriment. Where the idea, which originally would be, oh, this would be fun, ends up being a curse. And that is something that I wouldn't want.
By the way, I want to bring up about you talking about new tanks and healers.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
One main concern I have about adding tanks and healers is the fact that there's not many roles they can use now. Right. Mm-hmm. I know that sounds weird, but because, if it's a tank, it's a healer role. But we've got a high defensive tank with Paladin. Mm-hmm. We've got the high offensive tank with Warrior.
Yep.
And then we've got the mid balance with Dark Knight.
I was always hoping the Dark Knight would. That's the one change I wish they bring back. Dark Dance, because having it as a mid level, but also with that evasion, because you can still apply the blind, but then having Dark Dance, it's like you're pretty much unhittable.
But you know what I mean? We've got your tank, you got your you got your defensive tank, you got your DPS tank, and you got your sort of balanced.
Yeah.
For one or the other. Then for healers, you've got your burst healing with White Mage. Mm-hmm. You've got your sustained healing with Scholar. Mm-hmm. And then you got your balance with the Astro.
Yeah.
With the cards. Mm-hmm. And so really, there's not many roles that you could fit another tank or healer in that makes it slightly more unique than the previous ones.
Exactly. And that's where I think the argument is like, what are we going to add? And not that they couldn't add it, not that they couldn't do a pure evasion, but it needs to look at feeling that kind of a gameplay element as opposed to just adding a tank for tank's sake or a healer for healer's sake. And so
lifesteal tank, but again, the problem with that would be balancing it that it can heal itself enough without doing too much.
Right. And then the same kind of thing. It's like, what about how do you then balance the current three, right? Yeah. So you say like when you look at balancing like DPS, mitigation and balance, like now that you introduce a fourth thing, like how do they all relate to one another? And I think that's where you need to give XP a reason, because I think that people stop playing those things, especially when it talks about 11 roulette. Because there's no reason to go into a leveling roulette once you're at cap.
Oh, no. Except if you want your tombstones of poetics or...
Yeah, why poetics have no value below 60. So why isn't like a 1 to 100 conversion rate to the current?
I did bring up the comments on that. Poetics are mainly designed for people who don't purchase the expansions.
Yeah.
So that they can help gear up for when they do purchase the expansions.
Correct. But what about but back to the theme of the game in and of itself, like not like the zones and then the players, like in the story, it's like, why not then say, because like as I run that content, like, why not still incentivize me as an end game, saying that, oh, if you go and you do a leveling roulette, you're still going to get poetics, but you can, for every 100 poetics, it converts to one creation. You know, it's not game breaking. It's not efficient. You're not going to go and say, well, the most efficient way is to go run the old content. You know,
but I'd say I don't think it'd be balanced if it converted to the new tomes.
No, what I mean by new tomes, I mean is that it's the lowest of the new, not the capped tome, but it's still like a way to feed me creation, which feeds me gear for my non-main jobs. You know,
for your old jobs.
Yeah, and it's that way. It's that again, like it's just that it gives itself. And Yoshi, and the thing is, like I believe from an interview, Yoshi P talked about being able to trade poetics for gear in the latest thing where it was low, like it's, you know, a way to and they allow us to turn creation into mendacity with 4.4. So there are these things, but it's like it doesn't have to be efficient, and it shouldn't be efficient.
If we're going to see it, we might see it with like 4.5.
And that's where it kind of makes sense as we start to ship, because eventually all of the tomes that we have now will get converted into poetics, and poetics will be used.
That moment when you start crying inside because you realize you just put 2 months into farming Savage, and then the expansion drops, and then you can go to a vendor and buy something with a high level for like 10k.
Thank you very much. All right, let's go ahead and dive into our first comment. Let me go pull it up here so I can actually read it. So Scala N writes, the game's dying because the formula doesn't change. Get raid, cap tomestones, get 24 man, wait for next raid, cap tomestones, and the next 24 man. Patch X.1 gives us a moderately difficult trial based off the final boss, the MSQ. Wait for patch X.3 if you don't want to use dungeons to level, because that's when we get the new deep dungeon. Steep Dungeon X3 also wraps up the story of the base game. The expansion is following the patches that lead into the next one. Meet 2 beast tribes in the story, deal with their primals, and then become a daily quest hubs later. Patch X.5 combines their storylines for a title and emote and glamour. Watch as the next expansion will be exactly like this. Watch as I stop caring about my house and I finally unsub. And so these are harsh words. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and leave it up so people can kind of read it, etc. So, Chille, so what are your thoughts? So Scalia brings up some good points. And this is, the concerning part is that the reason he's subbed right now is because his house could get demolished.
Well, that's the same reason why I'm subbed. I have a house. I don't want to lose my house.
It is the housing thing is like, I bring it up is that, you know, housing and glamour are important, and I don't want to diminish that. At the end of the day, they're not necessarily so important to me.
It's important to me.
It's huge. No, it is huge. And that's where it's like, I want them to solve the problem. I want them to fix this so that it doesn't. It feels like it's this thing that's at least every couple of months. It's like there's a housing crisis, a land crisis.
I've just got enough money now to buy a mansion, so I'm sat here thinking, please, people, don't log in.
That's why he's coming on. He's like, guys, don't log in. Like everybody should take a break.
Build me a house on Ultros.
So what are your other thoughts? Like, what are your thoughts here about the kind of the rest of his point about the formula that it is right now?
I think we brought it up earlier, really, the fact that it has just got that stale. I'm
5.0 is the exact same.
I'm going to be killed for saying this now. I'm going to be absolutely murdered by everyone listening, okay?
Hopefully just verbally. Nobody hurt him, please.
I believe it would be nice to see someone else direct a patch.
Yes.
I love Yoshi P. He's done so much for the game.
Yes.
I feel like he's got a little tired.
I think it's not necessarily that he's tired. I think that Square Enix is literally running him rampant. And they keep promoting him.
Well, they gave him a new position as well, didn't they?
He's in charge of everything over at Division 5. And he says that it just equals a couple more meetings a month. But then, like, in his latest interview, like, he still goes around and has to promote the game. There's a lot of time that he's trying to direct the game that he's not actually on site. And that's becoming very difficult. And it's not that I want to see him step down. He's talked about trying to find somebody to help offset some of that load. And they haven't announced that there is anybody that's doing that, right?
Yeah. But I would like to see that.
Yeah, I would too.
Be nice just to see, even if it's just a patch, so he can have a break or two.
Yeah, a breather,
just a breather, so he can rest his batteries, and he might have think something during that. Yeah, might have a creative spark while that he's having a break.
My hope is that a lot of what we feel ends up being that they're working fervently behind the scenes on bigger things. And the risk is that my expectation of that, or my hope for that, isn't going to be met. So if 5.0 is a carbon copy of 4.0, and if you look at it like ARR versus Stormblood, I remember when there was a time we'd get multiple trials in in a patch, and now we get the one, and I'm like, man, it'd be so cool if we got more than one trial. But then I know there's a ton of work that has to go into it. Anyway, I think you were finishing your thought before I jumped in.
No, you pretty much finished my job. I just feel like, a little break and get some creative juices flowing.
If he builds the game for us to take breaks, maybe he himself deserves it. Well, and he definitely deserves it. The guy is he's done is I'm not discounting it by any measure. The guy has pulled off the impossible, and he's done something that never was done before in an environment that didn't think he could do it, and he did it, and he changed the whole culture at Square Enix because of it. We got so many really good and interesting titles from that change, because of his effort. So it's with love and with fear actually for his health and his well-being that it's like, I'm with you. Like, he doesn't have to step down. He could, if he wants to be a part of 14 and he still loves it, great. Hopefully, and I know that they have to be working on bringing up somebody to kind of fill it, because he does producer and director, and then he's also the executive over the Division 5 now. And
I would love to see him work on a single player Final Fantasy game.
Oh, dude, wouldn't you? What could he do with that, right? My secret hope would be give the man 16. If I'm assuming they've already well and all started 16. Hope they have. And not that 16 would be.
They might finish 7 before then.
Oh dear Lord! 7, people are like 7's coming. I'm like, this decade? I don't think so. All right, let's dive into Mr. Renegade. He writes, almost every time I see a WTG video in my feed, it's bashing 14. Honestly, it just seems like you're burned out and you should probably focus on something else. I've been playing since beta and I couldn't be happier with the direction and progress the game has made since 1.0. Final Fantasy XIV has had 2 expansions. Both have made huge strides from previous iterations. Sure, you can say, but during this time in Heavensward content, it was already out. Well, this isn't Heavensward anymore. Players are demanding more, and the development team is trying to accommodate as much as they can, all while meeting the company and stock deadlines. You're entitled to think 14 is dying, but I disagree. I'm super excited to see what 5.0 brings in terms of story, gear and raids, beast tribes, and jobs, and what innovations we'll see that it brings 14 one step closer to the top MMOs out there. Maybe take a break, play something else, take a breath, realize that it's just a game, and it can only get better if you let it. And I'd say Mr. M. Renegade, beautifully said. Beautifully said. Talking about burnout is, my burnout comes from a fear of literal thinking of 5.0. It's like when I look at it, it's that. Have you been to FanFest Chile? Did you go to the UK one?
I went to the last North American one.
Oh, damn! We did not get to hang out. But you're not going to be at this one, right?
I'm not at this one due to money.
Yeah. Are you going to try to? Are you able to get to the UK one?
It's in France.
I mean, when I was in Switzerland, I was able to get around. I was like, oh, cool.
I can get there, but I don't. Last time I went to France, I got lost. So okay. It was at midnight, and I was scared. I was going to a press event, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, it's over here. Mm-hmm. So I went to the train station and asked which train to get on.
Yeah.
And he said, any of them.
Just get on any train.
Just any of these 2. So I jumped on one. Went right past my stop.
Oh, man.
So I had to get on another train to go back. And then because it turned midnight, my ticket got disabled for the turnstile. So I ended up trying to jump over the turnstile to try and get out because I'd already paid. I thought, I'm not paying again.
Yeah.
I'm trying to leave. And then I had no idea where I was to the hotel. So I was trying to panic, working around, asking anywhere where the hotel was.
Sounds horrible, and I'm smiling because it's like, oh right. Gosh, I'm glad you're okay. Like at the time, I would have been pissed, but now it's like,
yeah,
oh my gosh, that sounds horrible.
But anyway, I was like, walking around, trying to ask anyone if they spoke English and if they knew where the hotel was.
Do you speak English? Hell, I need my hotel. Help.
Then I finally found a taxi service. Right? They said, oh, yes, nearby. I said, I don't care. Take my money.
Please,
take me there.
Just get me home.
Okay.
The reason I asked is that I feel like
€6 and he went around the corner and we were there.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Just around the corner. He's like, yeah, dude. And you're like, just get me there. I keep getting lost. The reason I ask is like, when it comes down to it, like my fear is the slide challenging new dungeons. Oh, yeah. And they've said it. They said it for Heaven's Word, and then they've said it for Stormblood. And it's that the dungeons themselves are challenging if you run them at the minimum eye level. But you gear it out, and you know the fights, and there's there's no real way that like when you hit cap, when we hit level 80, presumably we're going to 80. Yeah. When we hit 80, and then we've gone and had these dungeons, and then they give us 3 dungeons at cap. I just look at all these beautiful dungeons for leveling, and I'm like, why can't I play those now? Like, why isn't there a level? Why take the same dungeon, make the enemies harder, and just give me some variety? Because when we talk about Burnout, the thing that's easily that causes it is the repetition, the repeated things. So then I look at the content, and I say, man, it could they have all the things in place. We talked about it at the top of the show. Why not bring in some Heaven on High modifiers? Why not just like you have...
that would be good.
In literally 5.0, we presumably are going to have 60 to 80 dungeons. And there's nothing that actually brings me more joy when I get a dungeon that I haven't run in a year. Yeah. And it's like, oh man, I remember this. Do I remember this?
Ooh. I remember this kind of. But what is this?
But then it's like, I don't have all my 70 skills. I was like, why isn't that, you could literally... like if you look at you take a month and you just say we're going to take these 5 dungeons, you're going to play them, and every time you beat it, the dungeon levels up, it gets harder, so you can just try to see how hard you can push yourself. So for hardcore and casual, that would fix both, because maybe as a casual player I can get to level 5 or 6. Maybe as a hardcore player you're running 30 to 35. And it's like you're getting challenged, you've got additional modifiers, and if you're having fun, then that's what it's about. But then every month they say, oh, okay, here's 5 new dungeons, pulling from this huge pool of dungeons.
Big list of dungeons.
Yeah, imagine just being like, oh, cool, I haven't done this dungeon in 16 years. And it's like, cool, now it's back and it's refreshed. And then that change that every month is that, it's different. And if you want to do it, you can do it. If you can't. And that's where it's like, I really want something more.
One of my main issues I find though with some dungeons is I know this sounds stupid because it's weird, but I really dislike when there's an item level cap. Because a lot of the times I feel like, oh, I've got all this nice shiny new gear, I can do all this nice shiny numbers.
Nope.
Now they're quarter of them.
What's the hardest dungeon for you in the game?
Well, I mean it's the same hardest dungeon for everyone in the game. Damn it, now I can't remember the name of it. God damn it, it's the one with the Mole Bros.
Armvale,
that
is the hardest dungeon in the game. It has not gotten easier. It has not gotten easier.
It teases you though, because you got your level 49 abilities, and you just one off 50.
Just one off. That if they made it, even if with an item level cap at 50, that dungeon would be so different.
Oh yeah, it would be so much more fun if you had your level 50 abilities.
It is actually like I've gone in unsynced and it's fun. Like it's like you're just like, let's wreck this room, and you just drop it. You're just.
I'll be honest, that's the first thing I did as soon as they announced unsynced content. Mm-hmm. I got all my mates and we're like, okay, we're slaughtering Orenvale.
So we had the live letter, and just kind of still going off of kind of this comment is that we had the live letter, and I was actually hoping for more. So again, it kind of just fed into it. 3.4 introduced Wanderer's Tales, and Wanderer's Tales did more for the last expansion than I've seen. That it just blew my mind, because all of a sudden it made everything that we had done relevant again, because it tied in rewards in some form or fashion. And I guess I've been, even though like the stress that I felt has been with a copy paste kind of mentality that is this expansion, but it's like, where's our Wondrous Tales? Like, we have it. Obviously, it's been slightly updated, but it's like I'm looking for that moment to make all the interesting things that we've got relevant again, for the most part. I'm gonna let you talk for a minute because I can hear Mikey. I'm gonna mute.
No problem. Well, I'm going to add to that with the fact that the relic weapon is a little bit disappointing because of that. The previous relic weapons, you had to go back to do previous content to improve it. Although I love Eureka and I love the idea of Eureka for because I enjoy that content, I feel like by having the relic weapon tied up to Eureka and without any of the previous dungeons or content or fates, you have even less reason to go back to them.
Mm-hmm. That's one of the things that I've even kind of made, and I know people can easily disagree with it, is that when I talk about efficiency, talking about poetics to just being able to turn it into creation, like every 100 poetics, just one creation. I don't care. I'm not asking for efficient. Same kind of thing with Eureka and the E level. I think Eureka, I've called it kind of the public test realm, or we call it the relic test realm, because it's like they're trying new and interesting things. Like that's the perfect part for it. However, here's what I ran into a wall with, and this is not against the devs. This is actually more on me than anything else at the end of the day, is that I went in, I tried to find a group, and because they haven't brought in level sync outside of the freaking fates, it took a long time. It
needs to be added.
I know, especially because it exists in the game. That's the developer in me. Everything I'm asking for exists. It's just a matter of connecting the dots. And then my frustration grows because it's, and it's not fair to them. But again, I want to communicate that over glamour, over housing. I look at it as I think in my mind, and this is not fair to them. I think it's quick wins. I think they have the potential for these quick victories. Anyway, but so then I'm trying to do this. And then here's the other thing. I get a party. I get a group. Let's say it's like 8 of us. And then we're going. And then in 5 minutes in, 3 people drop because their friends come online and they want to go do the content with them, and that's awesome. That's
actually to do it myself.
I applaud. That's awesome. I want you to play this game with your friends, but because they can't invite their friends into this instance, they have to drop and leave, and so all of a sudden, all the effort we've made is wiped out. So the problem is that and this is just where the content is not built for me, and that's okay. I don't need everything built for me. That's fair, but the content itself is not built for me. So and in so much that I have an hour. So it makes me feel a little frustrated that if I could go run a dungeon, if I could go do a roulette, and again, if it gave me 1/100th of the XP for my E level, not efficient at all, but that it's like, I can do this because I've got 30 minutes. I have an hour. I can participate in this content. And it's that we're supposed to be a theme park. I would think that this content should talk to that content talk to this. And I think Eureka should be the most efficient place to level in Eureka. Like you will outpace me, 1,000 times. But over the course of, a year, maybe I gain 2 levels in Eureka. Who cares?
Well, as Midnight 64 in the Twitch chat add elemental XP to Wondrous Tales.
Oh, heck. Yes. Midnight. Game of the, comment of the year right there. Boom.
Even if it's just like a reward, like one of the free rewards you can pick.
Yeah. Oh, and you pick it. Perfect.
Yeah.
But that's the theme park that communicates. It's like if I went to Dave & Buster's and they said, you play this game, you get these tickets. And then, but you got to go play that other game. You get a whole other ticket system. Yeah. And then you got to go try to we don't take these tickets for this prize and we don't take these tickets for this prize. You'd get frustrated. And that's just where it's like they have these great attractions. Some of them aren't really, I think, fully communicating. And that's where I just wonder, is 5.0 going to be more the same?
Yeah, it's true.
All right, let's jump into Kendra. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Here's the biggest problem with the video. You're complaining to your audience who most likely will agree with everything you say. No. I'm just going to jump in there. I hate echo chambers. Hate maybe is too strong a word. We really try not to be an echo chamber. You say that they are themselves the kind of players that AFK in Eureka and then cry and then they miss N&M. An entitled lot that don't have the power to make a change. But you do have that following, or they say blind following. If you want to see big changes, why not you either every creator on YouTube with a platform stand and needs to go to the official forums and articulate what you want from the game, not Reddit. And not where, but the official forums will be received quickly and seriously. And in Japan, the reputation of Reddit is this is a joke site, right? Take your audience there, team up with other content creators, and articulate forums on the official forums, and send everybody here and there. Yoshi needs tangible proof. Big changes need to happen to make the big wigs won't give him the funds. Be the change you want to see in the game. And Kendra, you are absolutely 100% right. That's why the beautiful thing is, that's what we do. And I know that she probably didn't go check out the playlist in which that all of those videos are paired with an official forum post with the link to drive in that conversation and talking about pairing with other creators. We got Chille, we got Thamriyell. You know, we even talk about with Larry's art. You know, it's that you're 100% right. And that's actually what we're doing. And so the video tries to make reference to that. So I don't know if that came across, but that people need our feedback. And that's what, you know, we kind of talk about it. And you said that, you know, it's like, if only Yoshi P is hearing that they want more bunny suits for guys and more, you know, like housing plots, well, that's where he's going to focus, because
I want more male dresses.
More male dresses, more, you know, it's like if that's all he hears. And so in a weird way, you know, and this is, I felt that's why I was like, okay, well, we're going to do this. We're going to go on this road. And that's why I spent a better portion of 2 months working on that playlist before making this video. I wrote this video a long time ago, and then I decided not to do it. And then people kept bringing it up and bringing up their frustrations with the game. And thus, I was like, it's important because we need to have that conversation about 5.0, especially when they're designing 5.0 right now. When they're trying to come up with the content.
Yeah. They need to hear our opinions, both good and bad.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not sitting here going to say that I'm always right and that my opinions should literally be the only thing out there. I don't want that.
Opinions aren't fact; they're just your opinions.
Exactly. But like my hope is that as a community, as people in the Twitch chat here, as people watching this later on YouTube, as the community as a whole, that we raise our voices and when we communicate respectfully, effectively, and then, you know, and we dialogue with each other, because like Sparta says, he doesn't, you know, think that he wants that, you know, going into all different content and getting all different kinds of rewards. I respect that. I think he's right, you know, especially for his opinion. And I think that's where I want kind of the majority rule. And I feel, and this is a feeling, it's not a fact, is that the majority the communication seems to be about glamour. And, you know, the joke being glamour's the true end game. Does it, you know, like, yeah, that's fine. If you love it, let's talk about how we can make it better. What are any other thoughts on that one, on that comment, Chille?
I agree with what you said, really. There's not much I can say.
So do you post on the official forums at all?
I don't really. I really should do some more on the official forums, if I'm honest.
Yeah. So I'd encourage everybody.
I hear a lot of bad stories about it, so that's kind of...
You have to measure it. You got to take it within breath. Like anytime anybody was going to post anything on anywhere, note that it doesn't mean it's going to be well received. I would say I would encourage people to engage respectfully back, even if somebody slams your idea. You know, just, you know, thank them for their feedback, because it can change it. I think the internet has trained us in a way that you have like, everything's conflict, conflict. We got to fight, and I got to tell you why you're wrong. And then when you ever like you reply back, and that's one of the things we have to do as content creators, but as a community, engage with one another. That it's like, okay, cool, this is really going over well. This is, you know, let's talk about it. Like, give me your ideas as to why these ideas might not work, you know, well, etc. So, anyway, so guys, engage with the official forums. That would be perfect. All right. So then James Martin writes, "Dying. I'm here to say that Mr. Brian, I think and I hope that you're just a little burnt out and in the minority. I hope I'm in the minority too. I
hope I'm in the minority as well.
Yeah. I hope I'm in the minority for that. I don't know about your server, but here in Excalibur, our FC has tripled in membership, and my circle of friends has doubled since Stormblood. We've been getting a new and returning players, plenty of WoW, Guild Wars 2, and Terror refugees. And the key, I think, is having fun with friends, and that is what matters. For example, grind in Eureka with no one to talk to on Discord, and you're going to feel that grind. But if you grind in Eureka with 4 of your friends in Discord talking about the game, that's a huge game changer. So, Chille, you said you play with friends, right? You had some friends that you've been helping out? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's the important? How important is playing with people that you like?
I want to say playing with people you know is just one of the most important things about something like this.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with people being so split, I guess.
Yeah.
I find a lot of people will chat will be clicky. That's the only way to describe it.
It's natural. People group up and pair up.
Yeah.
That's why the internet is perfect for echo chambers because you can easily find somebody who agrees with you.
Oh yeah, easily.
And so that's where it's like to the previous comment. It's like I'm sure my audience, hey, they're not my audience. Excuse me. They're the community here. No, I don't want them to agree with me. And it's like I want us to engage because I want to learn. I want to learn what they think. And I want to know why they think it because I don't think I'm always right. I don't know if that's a good trait or a bad trait. I think evolutionary, it might not be the best. I should always think I'm right.
Yeah, you're always right.
Yeah,
you're always right. But I'm in one of the biggest free companies on my server, Terra Sales, which is on Ultros, and we've seen a decline in members over the last few months.
Yeah.
Just because of a lack of people wanting to interact and play the game. We're still big. We're still one of the biggest on the server, but it's just like you can see people leaving.
The game's going to fluctuate. One of the really cool things about what he brings up, and there's a story that I want to kind of tell in relation to the response to this comment. But it's that we just crossed over 14 million registered users. Yeah. 14 does a really great job of bringing people in. Their free trial thing I think is really well done. I think that I would like to see that if you bought the base game, that you could still play the base game. I think there's definitely some subscription model updates that they could make that would make it great with also at the same time keeping trolls at bay. There's definitely interesting models out there in the world, and I think especially if you bought the base game, it's kind of weird that you can play the free trial endlessly, but if you actually gave us money, that we're going to cut you off just for the base. But so the 14 does a really great job, and the fact that we got 14 million registered. My question, and not to be cynical, is that should that number be higher? Because registered
should be higher in a way.
Registered's great. I don't give a crap about active subs. Honestly, I think a lot of people try to put a weight into it. It's not important. As somebody who writes applications, I would assume that it's something that Square Enix games is similar to what we care about in my industry, and it's daily active users. Not subs, it's just daily active users. How many people are logging in every day and playing the content? And how long are they playing the content? How long are they engaging? There is a sweet spot that you want to hit because that makes everything feel well. I don't think 5.0 is going to be. I think we're going to see even higher numbers of that. That number that they report can only go up because they're not going to be like we deleted 10 million accounts and now we're down.
You've read the little asterisks. Mm-hmm. It also includes free trial members, and that's not great. That, in my opinion, will probably inflate the numbers more than we think.
But if those free trial people are logging in and playing, that's actually that would be more net positive in my mind and how I would see it. Because if they're playing it, everybody who's registered is a potential person to come back and subscribe. And the fact that they build the game to have these waves and take these breaks is hugely important. I think 14 does a great job of bringing people in, and that's where one of the things I see, with exception, I think it was Renegade, it was Renegade. They're talking about being a 1.0 player. People who've played the game for a longer period of time are more likely to agree with my critique of the state of Final Fantasy 14. People who are newer are less likely because they also have just a wealth of content that's new.
Look at all this new stuff that we've never seen before.
Yeah, exactly. And my main critique is I feel like they have all this beautiful content and we just let it go by the wayside. It's like like you said, you want to log in, you want a reason to play. Yeah. And they're not giving that to you. And that's why, to this comment, I hope we're in the minority. I think we are. I think for the most part we're in the minority, but we're wanting more of a reason to be involved and play. And I think part of the burnout that I feel is that I'm actually playing and leveling jobs that I normally don't play or level for controller guides because the community has asked that of me as a creator. And so that's what I'm working on. And I'm looking forward to kind of having Dragoon and Monk done. That's all I've got left. And that way I can say... What's up?
Punch things.
Punch things, dude. Pugilist. I used to go running because I've been trying to lose weight, and I whenever I needed I wanted a burst of speed, I'd actually yell out pugilist. Pugilist, because it's like they're so fast, and they're like, I don't want to be that in shape. And so it's just kind of fun in that vein. But the story is, though, that I wanted to kind of say about this is that over the last year we've had a lot of crazy life events, and I alluded to it in the video, didn't go into it, but our house sunk 6 inches in a month, and I had to go work a lot of hours to get that fixed. We had another baby, so Julie was pregnant, and that actually was a lot harder on her, and just physically, just like, oh man. So she wasn't playing the game because it was like, that's the last thing she really wanted to do. She's like, I'm not feeling really good. I'm ready for to have this baby. And so, there's this sense that like from playing with friends, typically like through ARR and even at 1.0 and 2.0 and 3.0, Julie's kind of been right by my side for the majority of the content, and we weren't able to do a lot of that. So I think that there is a legitimate critique in how I've experienced this expansion in this past year, and that's where it's like I don't want to discount that. Like my view could be completely disillusioned because I'm not able to play with friends as I used to be able to. I've been able to play a lot more with the community, which has been fun. But based off of work and based off of trying to pay off the house and get the house fixed and get it leveled, those are hugely different things. So I had to take on a lot more contracts, a lot more work, and because of that, my playtime has been severely reduced. And here's the thing: is that I look at the content, like I said, I think I have some time now. I can get into Savage Rating, but it's not the time to get into Savage Rating. I got to wait for 4.4.
No.
I got to wait for 4.4, and that's just And if I miss that train, then I have to wait again. And that's where I hopefully I won't end up finding myself waiting. Did you have any final thoughts on on that comment?
Yeah, please do wait for raiding. I hate to be mean to the player base, but we've got to that part of the patch where people that believe that they can raid, and they can't raid.
I would come in. I would not offer too much value because it's like, okay, we're not. Maybe I'll toss up a learning party. Maybe I'll toss up a learning party and see if anybody joins. I'm talking
people that join farm groups.
Yeah.
And then pull the same damage as a healer, as a red mage.
As a healer, I do pretty good on damage.
Yeah, but yeah. When your samurai is like, nah, I'm good. So yeah.
Let's see here.
Maybe wait.
That's I have James comment twice. Okay, I don't know why that broke. Okay, great. So we had James. We talked about him. And see here. Oh man, something broke. Okay, well those are the comments. I had a couple other comments. Let me see if I can't find them real quick because it's like, let me just hack it around here. I was like, what is happening? Why is it? Because I duplicated. They disappeared. Let's pull up Brian. There we go. Okay. So Brian says, in my opinion, 14 is dying because it's all that it's been doing is copy and paste the same stuff from Heavenward, and that's totally okay. But they also need to add more new content. We've heard that the community got bigger, but the fact we got one less dungeon and we still get the same amount of boss fights and it still doesn't add up. They need to take a risk. Eureka is like Diadem. Nothing new, just fates. Heaven on High is like Palace of the Dead. We can predict what is coming in the next patch, and the only thing the player base looks forward to is the main story and Savage. Everything else is just let. And I'm assuming go is going to be the final word in that comment. And so that's kind of where it sits. And he hits, and the reason I was going to end on Ryan's comment, not because his name is awesome.
It's an awesome name.
But because I think he really kind of hit at a lot of what we've been saying. And it's like, I love the story. With the exception of 3.2 and 3.3, didn't care for it. Like, I was like, it just didn't speak to me. But the end of 4.3, my gosh, dude. I'm like,
I'm really looking forward to what's going to happen with the main story.
Yeah.
Especially with the twists that happened in the end of 4.3.
Yeah. And that's where, like, one of the things I was thinking we would do at some point, as I want to do kind of like getting people caught up. But I like the story of Ladola with, that's 3.1. Her story moved me more than, like, I think any recent story within the game. She's such an interesting character. The story that I enjoyed with Yosetsu, not Yosetsu, it's like Gosetsu and I butcher her name.
Yeah, I butcher her name as well, so I'm just going to be quiet.
Yeah, we know what we're talking
Thank you, I'm eating.
Yeah, so but her and Flodella's story as contradiction sides of the coin. Can redemption be possible? I thought that was fascinating, but it just that 4.2 and 4.3 story wise. But so then now going into Prelude to Violet, I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah, you got the whole thing of if someone has amnesia and they've done bad stuff in the past, does that mean they're, you know what I mean? Do you judge them for what they did, or do you judge them for what they're going to do because they don't know what they did?
There we go. Thank you, Interest. Yes, that's who we're talking about. Exactly. Like how and where is guilt and how's that applied? And because physically she was the person who portrayed these issues, but mentally she's not there. For me that really like, where are the Asians? What's going on with the shards? Like there are these key themes that just like I am so excited about. Zodiac?
Where are you? Where are you? We heard you about you in 2.0 summit.
Yeah, come on, buddy. Like, are we gonna fight? And I don't think, and they should build up to him, obviously, and they've been building up to him, right? Okay, cool. So now let's think of, are we getting back to that? And that's where I think we're going. That's where, like, when you look at, like, even the rumored name, Shadowbringers, it's fascinating. Oh my gosh, like, even if it's not Shadowbringers, like, it's just like the theme of ARR being the day, the dawn, Heavensward the day, Stormblood the evening, and then 5.0 the nighttime. Leading into 6.0 being a whole new day. And that could, that in and of itself is like, you could see these connections and these threads and everything getting connected. Hugely important. Hugely valuable.
I want them to twist and have us be the bad guys.
I think go ahead.
In 5.0.
In the poem, it alludes that we're going to mess up. We're going to maybe do something and it's going to bring about it. And I think that would be the most beautiful thing because then that sets itself up for redemption. How can we save the world, but we're human or we're Elzen or we're Lalafell or whatever. We can mess up. And that in and of itself, like there is the narrative of this game is so strong. It's one of its greatest strengths and one of its greatest weaknesses.
Can I say how I feel it's going to play?
Yeah, go ahead.
I feel like because we're going to be
speculation, people. Yeah. If at this point in the podcast, if you're worried about, we're going to speculate and just be warned. Okay.
I'm not going to spoil much, but I'm just going to go into depth of what I feel like. Well, we know from the Warriors of Darkness that if you balance, you've got to keep a balance of light and dark. Too much dark causes, what we know, the Zodiac. Mm-hmm. Too much light also causes issues. Mm-hmm. Well, we've not really, I know we've failed in a little bits in here and there. But
we have not failed in a while, though. No,
but overall, we've always succeeded in what we're doing. Mm-hmm. We might fail like here and there. When we lost to Xenos, we failed the little battle, but we did not fail the war. We still won. Mm-hmm. I feel like if we push into Garlemald and take it over, or do whatever the hell we're going to be doing in Garlemald in 5.0, and then start using the power of the Garlemald with us to push Ascians back, that's going to be
actually killing them. We're actually destroying them now.
Yeah, that's going to be a massive scale and push into the light. Mm-hmm. We're going to push way more into the light than I feel like is designed for that elemental balance.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're going to cause our own mini calamity.
We have to. Like if it's to be calamity, a calamity is required for Zodiac.
Yeah.
And I think that the question is when will we see the calamity? And I think it makes sense like at the end of 5.0. Oh, I think we'll be the cause of it. I think absolutely.
And we'll be being too successful. We'll be so successful that we're being the bad guys.
A calamity of light as opposed to a calamity of darkness.
Yeah.
But then also that gives them the ability to reform the world, to kind of refresh a lot of these things, to do these things that make a lot of sense for the game. I think as we go in and we push, I'm hoping that we see that because to get to Zodiac, you got to have that calamity, and we've had 7. There's been 7 rejoinings, and if you guys aren't aware what a rejoining is, it's every time the world's been sundered into 13 different parts. We're the main. We're the host.
We're the main shard.
Yeah, and then essentially there's copies and there's different things that have happened. So it's kind of like 13 parallel universes. And every time a calamity happens on the main, in order to sustain it, Hydaelyn has to absorb one of those shards under herself. One of those shards has become pure void, and so we don't believe that can be rejoined into Hydaelyn. And so then essentially that leaves 3 or 4 others left out of the 13. And so then the question is that does Zodiac need the rejoining to happen for all of the remaining, or is it just one more? Is it just the tilting of that we all of a sudden get to where he has enough energy and strength to start
with the main shard? So if we tilt the main shard, it's probably got more of effect than tilting, say, the other minor shard. Yeah, I mean the minor ones.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be really interesting to see where they go with it. I think that's where, like, to bring it back full circle, is that the game has a ton of content, and I want them making new content. I think the majority, if not all players, want new content, new dungeons, new raids, new trials. I think that if they don't figure out a way to make current content relevant and not let it fall by the wayside, it's going to continually feel empty. We sit on a giant game, just huge.
Yeah.
And the majority of people spend a lot of the time at the very top in this one little area, right? So just focusing on that, you end up leaving a lot of room for, just okay, well, there's really nothing to do. There's a ton of stuff to do. It might there's no incentive, or there's no real reason to challenge yourself. And that's where it's one of the things we did at FanFest, and they didn't do it this last year, but they did it the first one. They put teams of 4 people in the same dungeon, and they had us race to see who could finish it first. And I went, this is fun. How cool would it be to be able to take a dungeon and this is 8-man content. Once we find you, we're going to team A and team B. And you're going to race, and then on the map you can see whoever, you don't know who you're technically competing against, but they could just gamify it a little bit more, and they could lore-wise tie it into the grand companies to say, hey, we're doing drills.
They could add a time trial aspect to dungeons and have maybe a mini, I guess what you could do is have a select few dungeons, then have a season reward at the end of the patch cycle. Yeah. Kind of like PvP, but with PvE aspects.
PvE seasons would be a huge asset to this game.
Because we already have... they've got a leaderboard system already implanted because of the Deep Dungeon / Heaven on High system, which already has the scoring and timing.
The development work has been done. And that's when we sit here, that's where I'm trying not to be so critical, because I get frustrated because it's you got leaderboards, you got modifiers, you got this, you have all of these things. Literally just take the deck of cards that you've built, shuffle them together, and start packing it in interesting ways to refresh the content, to add, because the beautiful thing I love about Uzanar, right? It's the randomness. So they are now introducing basically what would almost be considered a boss rush mode, but tied into Uzanar. I cannot wait for that content. I am more excited about that than I am about chaos.
I'll be honest. This sounds stupid, but what I'm most excited for in 4.4 is the anniversaries.
The anniversaries, but see, that's actually a beautiful thing. That starts to feed into the thing that my critique.
Yeah,
we've had weddings. It's but they that content is sat down. Free companies haven't received an update since really 2.1. We got the free company crafting, but why not let us rank up? Why not just give us you don't have to tie any kind of perk to it now. Just we've been rank 8 forever. Why 8?
Yeah, why can't we go to 10, please?
It feels like there's an idea there that it's okay, we'll just keep letting them rank up and we'll add in new features and stuff. They could always do that, but just give us a prestige thing. It makes no difference.
Scale it up to 10 and add the tier 3 reward buffs.
Oh wait, do we have a Thamriyell? Do we have a Thamriyell joining the stream? Let's see here. There we go. Thamriyell, can you hear us, buddy?
Hello?
I see.
Yes. And I would like to apologize for the delay and for being
you sound like you just
severely late. I apologize for making y'all wait.
That's okay. We're glad you made it. We've been having a really good conversation. I don't know why that's not letting me resize. Can you go and show your camera if it's available?
The camera is still unavailable, unfortunately. So if you could use the graphic that I sent you over before,
absolutely,
that'd be great. I'm still not 100% certain what's going on with the camera. I'll have to fix that up later. It might be just completely scuffed. I might have to get a brand new one.
We'll be fine.
Let's not worry about what already has been covered. I'm just going to jump into whatever y'all were discussing, so I don't break up the basics.
Oh, you're good. What we're basically going to break down is that we're just saying if you did join in progress, I'll edit this to be like, and a wild Thamriyell has appeared. So
a wild Thamriyell has appeared.
A wild Thamriyell. So I'm glad you made it, dude. Don't worry. Like we've been having a really good discussion. I loved your video, by the way. One of the things that I was hoping that you could apply some context to as I go ahead and edit the stream in real time. Why is it not letting me resize? I'm just going to drop you down here. For some reason, let me hit Alt. Maybe that's what it needs.
Yeah, I must admit, I really did enjoy your video. I'm going to have to subscribe and look at some of your previous videos.
Go ahead and rearrange this. So, Thamriyell, you brought up a lot of good points. I think one of the biggest critiques that you had that I actually really agree with was that I did not actually spend enough time going into the previous videos, because I actually went and it's weird that you only saw the one because one of the things that we did was it ended up being that I had the playlist, so it's supposed to link you to a playlist of ideas, and so it's weird that you only ended up seeing the one idea at its core. And so, but your point was I did not end up spending enough time and effort diving into what's what it actually meant. What are these things? What are these features the game needs? Because and for me, my defense was time. I was trying to make sure that the video wasn't an hour. Be like, hey guys, all right, we're gonna talk about this, because I know a lot of people literally are just gonna see the title and they're just gonna come in and they're gonna hit thumbs down and they're gonna leave. I know that. I know that for a fact. Because as a society we're headline societies now. We don't like and we have to compete off of headlines, so it's kind of like it is, I can't fix the problem, so I am part of it, right? But yeah, a lot of people are going to see the title, they're going to come in and say I'm wrong, and then so I usually try to engage with those people who come and make those comments, like what specifically what critique, etc., did we disagree with. So we spent a lot of time, I actually went through a lot of comments getting you caught up. And the last comment, and then we also talked about the 3-year celebration of Phonix Down Radio. So Chille is a part of that podcast. But to summarize it, so one comment I think captures what Chille and I kind of agree with. And in the parts, I think your critique video, which I would recommend anybody joining in, checks it out. It will be linked in this video as well. And I also, in the main, while Final Fantasy XIV is dying video, I added a card and a link in the description to your video, to your response video, because I think it's that important to have that dialogue. But Brian says this. He says, in my opinion, 14 is dying because all they've been doing is copying and pasting the same stuff from Heavensward, and that's totally okay. But they also need to add more new content. We've heard that the community got bigger, but the fact is that we actually get one less dungeon. And then we still get the same amount of boss fights, and it doesn't add up. And they need to take a risk. Eureka just feels like Diadem. Nothing new, just Fates. Heaven on High feels just like Palace of the Dead. We can predict what's coming in the next patch. Only thing that the player base looks forward to is the main story and Savage. And everything else is kind of let go by the wayside. And that, I picked the wrong thing. I knew I was going to do that. And that's where, at the root of it, my thing is that I feel like we have a ton of content in this game, and they don't necessarily do much with it. I think the last big content refresh was Wanderer's Tales, where it all of a sudden made all this other content interesting. Because it's about incentive, it's about rewards. You can go and make the greatest dungeon, and if it drops no gear, no one, you're going to do it once for the experience, and then there's no reason to go back and do it. But Thamriyell, you did that video. I want to hopefully I've got you caught up on what we've been talking about. We did get into some theory crafting of the story, but I'd love for you to take some time and share your thoughts with the viewers here as well, who might not have seen your video or my video. They might have just seen the titles. I'm worried that you're going to get a lot of hate, though. I'm worried that people are going to
I may get a lot of hate. I may not get a lot of hate. My point, the point of the video wasn't really to, I was hoping that with the video I could contribute to the conversation regarding Final Fantasy XIV, while also maybe kind of I don't know, maybe kind of a not try to nitpick, but maybe try to pick at possibilities of what you mean regarding the game, as well as to agree with some of the points that you made, because you have some points that I completely would agree and that would be completely valid with. It's just I was a little disappointed that you didn't go in depth, because the video could have been incredible. Could have been like you bring up an issue and then you boom, 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 follow it up with some very, very like reasonable changes, suggestions that would have been excellent. And it just it didn't have that. It had the setup, but it didn't have the ammo. And I was like, wait a minute, what? It could have been so good. You could have just like fired off some good suggestions and some good alternate, I guess, changes to the content to make it more, spicy, more exciting, more new, more fresh. And just you didn't have that. I was like, wait a minute. You had the setup going, and just you didn't have it.
Yeah, and that's I think you're completely fair in that assessment. And that's where it's like when I look at it, like hindsight being 2020. It's like I've been actually prepping. Like that video ends up being kind of the final, kind of like the final bow of. I've had idea after idea after idea that I've shared, and I've also made official forum posts about, because I like it. You haven't seen this comment, but Kendra basically was saying that you need to take this and make sure that you're posting it on the official forums, not just on Reddit. And to her point is completely valid. That's exactly what I've actually been doing leading up to this video. And the disconnect is that I was guiding my audience, the community through this thought process and journey. But anybody just coming in and being introduced to the content in this video feels exactly the way you feel. Like it is, wait, where's the payoff? Like, okay, these are your issues. What are your solutions? And that's where it's like, I'm kind of bummed that it didn't do the playlist link or something. Maybe something broke with that. Maybe I messed up and put the wrong link in there.
Yeah, it only linked to a video. Yeah. It didn't seem to link to a playlist, unfortunately.
Yeah, because basically I covered making XP worth something. It's like at level cap. Like XP, fates, there's so much content that just like when you're not using it for leveling, it just is like, you don't need it. Chille, in his case, to his critique is that he's got all his jobs leveled. He's run all the raids. He's frustrated because he's wanting a reason to go play, and the game doesn't necessarily offer him a pathway or something like that. And so one of the ideas that a lot of people actually, even the devs responded to it, is taking all the dungeons in the game, taking Heaven on High, and basically joining that kind of concept where dungeons are scaled up, and then you add in the modifiers to them, so that every time you beat it, the dungeon gets harder. It adds more modifiers to it. So every time you push yourself and challenge yourself to the best of your ability. So somebody maybe who's more casual like myself might get to like level 5. Somebody like Chille, who's a Savage Raider, might get to level 35, of that kind of content. And just saying, pull from the wealth of content we have and bring it, 360 degrees, and just say, and the frustration that I feel that I try to make in the video is that, and I try not to put the expectations wrong on them, falls down into is that we have all these systems. I have not actually, none of these ideas that I've proposed, they already exist in some form of content that exists in the game right now. And so it's just a matter of saying, hey, let's add this here and let's shuffle that in there. Mm-hmm. So, but I loved I actually woke up and I watched it and I was like, dude, thank you. I know you said in the video you were worried that I'd be mad. I'm like, no.
Well, I was honestly worried that it was going to come off as a kind of video where I'll be grilling your points. And I was like, oh, maybe I should like ease that up a little bit here and there. Or maybe like, I don't know. I felt like I wanted to make it as not as much as personal, but at least I didn't want to be the kind of person that's like, hey, cheering on 100% or completely grilling 100%. I wanted to like have a little bit of give and take, because like I said, I generally points that I agree with you on a lot of issues that you discussed in the video and more. But there are also some things where like I wanted a little bit more. So I just wanted to be honest about it and just have my thoughts, I guess, out there.
I appreciate your honesty. I appreciate you.
Go ahead, as a content creator, I always enjoy when people might make content that rivals my opinion, because it gives me more reason to talk about the items in question. Mm-hmm. Because it's better to have more than one opinion on a subject than it is just to have the same opinion. because that way you can see where you might be wrong and where you can improve, where you can change your views.
Mm-hmm. I think it's I don't want an echo chamber, and the internet it makes that easy. I know that a lot. It's interesting to see, like, I could see when somebody who's been and knows what we do and has followed the channels had a huge different reaction to that video as opposed to just someone who got it fed to them by the YouTube algorithm. Yeah. And it's like one guy was like, all I ever see from you guys is negative content, and it's like, out of 1,000 videos,
y'all make a lot of content 6. Praising a lot of parts of the game and through great ideas. So I saw a couple of those comments. I was like, guys, you haven't seen this channel, check it out.
Even somebody commented in your video that they're like, all work to game is they're a hate channel. It's like, honestly, my critique, my thing is like, my curiosity that I responded to one of them on my channel was like, do you only watch negative content? Because my bet is that you do, and YouTube thinks you like that kind of content, so it recommends that. So you don't see the other 998 videos where we're like, this is good, we like this. This is, our review of this is positive. But it's like, again, I can't change the culture. I can only control.
True, that is.
But
true.
I'm going to take your critique obviously to heart, because it's that I think that you're right. I like when I look at it, like I think it was probably one of the better videos that I made. But I definitely think that I'm like, yeah, there's probably some points that I assume I made the, I presume that, people, have the context in which that everything is set up in and of itself. So with that, before we actually wrap up, what I want to do is that from a positive side is that I want to go round table, and I want you guys to think of 2 or 3 things that you want to see changed in 5.0, changed or added. And it doesn't have to do with anything that I talked about. But I just want to see, as people of the community who love this game, what is it that and I would say it can't be story, it can't be the things we already love about the game. Like, what is it that we feel like the game could definitely do? So to your point, Tham, instead of the critique of this piece, it's what is it that we want? And I'm going to start with, if Chille, you know what you want, I'm going to give Tham some thoughts.
Let's let Chille first.
Yeah, so Chille, do you have anything?
I would like some more social features.
Like what?
The alarm is a nice idea. I'm looking forward to the alarm in 4.4 in a way. I know it sounds stupid, but I'm a person that's really rubbish at timing stuff.
Yeah.
So the alarm will be great if I ever go back into doing gathering, because I can set it for alarms. I can set alarms for raiding. I can set alarm for social meetings, for like free company meetings.
Do you know how many alarms they're going to let you have?
I don't know, but hopefully it's a nice select. At least 3 or 4, because you won't need all of them saved. You can reuse. Like your free company meeting, you'll only need that. Like we only do it like once a month, so
right.
So I would like to expand on the social features, like the calendar that's on the app, the phone app.
Bring it into the game. Like I would love to see. That just when I go in to pull up the free company and be like, oh, cool, we've got this scheduled. And
I want an actual item.
That'd be great.
Like a housing item where it's just even if it's just a housing links to the free company, you click on it and it opens up the free company calendar. It's just a link to it. It's not unique. It's just a visual aspect, user interface for your house.
Well, and you could even, there's so much that a calendar in game could end up just totally bring the community together, because then if you tie it into the phone, making the free version of the phone stuff, just saying, hey, by the way, don't forget, y'all have a raid scheduled for Saturday. And it's like, oh yeah, but could be managed in the game, it can be managed in the phone, but it brings it all together. And hell, just give me some Discord integration, that'd be huge too.
Oh, that'd be good. But the issue with Discord integration is consoles, because PS4 does not have Discord. So
and that's where I'm hoping that's something that gets solved at some point. Because it's like, I hope that they get to work with PlayStation and they get that added. I don't know if PlayStation's current stance is going to allow for that. But maybe.
Well, I don't know. They've always been kind of welcoming with PC.
They have been, but their stance currently has been less than ideal for.
I agree with that.
And that's where it's like Microsoft's like partnering with Discord. I'm like, why not PlayStation?
Yeah.
And maybe we'll see it. And I hope we do, because it's that. I think it's a valuable thing. They don't let me install Discord yet on the Xbox, which is a bit disappointing. So we'll have to see.
One day, maybe.
One day. It's a day at a time. Any other features? Because like the social features, that sounds awesome. That sounds really good.
Again, thanks to Maelstrom Radio for that. So yeah, Flatus is a big supporter of that. I'd like to see. Well, I'd like to see a little bit, as you talk about. I love the idea of the time trial dungeons, and I would like to see that as a sort of feature, more the PVE sort of style, not like a leaderboard sort of. Yeah, like a season event.
Yeah, PvE seasons I think would be fascinating. Now that they couldn't work like 1-on-1 with PvP, right? But yeah, that would be so cool to see, like, because then you can challenge yourself over the course of a season, and then you as us as the players, we end up almost making our own challenges, right?
Oh yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm gonna see what I can, how many times, and then it's like you gain this much experience in this season, and you did this in this season. I'm a stats nerd, so when you say PvE seasons, I go, yeah.
But I would also like it to be level capped in a way, because otherwise certain players will. I know it's the whole challenge aspect, but I feel like it would be greater for like casual to mid-core players than it would be hardcore. Even though hardcore would enjoy it, maybe have 2 tiers. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the implementation like that becomes a challenge, because they don't PvP seasons wouldn't necessarily translate 100% right to the PvE, so there'd definitely be some development time in it, and then it comes down to priority.
Those that do Savage will have the major advantage in the season that those do not.
Maybe because it's that it's almost categories within the season, right? So it's that your season, everybody's on the same season, but then category wise, you did more in the Savage stuff, but this team or this people, they ran more dungeons. This person gathered more crystals than anybody. Like, just these interesting ways of tracking and having a little bit of fun with it. And you can even break it up to where seasons are more about your free company than your individual.
Oh yeah, and I would love to see more free company stuff expanded. I want to see more free company again. Time with the social stuff. I love my free company, but really, it's not really much more than a link shell.
Yeah, that's interesting how the game has evolved that way. Link shells have become far more important than the free company.
Yeah. So that's content-wise, I can't really add, because I want loads of stuff, but I can't summarize it. So yeah.
Right. All right. Thamriyell, have you had any thoughts or any time to think on any of those ideas? Because I could throw off a couple if you still need a couple more minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I only have really one particular idea that I found really fun from World of Warcraft, mentioned in my video. The idea of running around and doing world quests out in the open world.
Yes.
It's something I completely agree with you in your video, is that we are left with these beautiful, amazing zones that we quest in, do some main questing stuff, do some fates in, and then for the most part we abandon, unless we need to do gathering and maybe some crafting, or maybe we need to level all jobs and we do some fates before the next area of like House of the Dead appears, and we can just grind that out. There's no reason for us to do them and come back to those areas unless there's a B stripe, unless there's a particular vendor that we need to talk to.
Or there's a cap on those. There's a cap on the B stripe. Eventually you hit all value. Like I can't rank up anymore with you. There's no prestige rank. There's no you hit 8, but you've gone to 99. There's no additional rewards, but how far have I gone, and et cetera. But it just feels like any content has an expiration date they make currently, and that applies to the story. Like you don't play the story multiple times.
The problem is though, they also try to force the content like the B stripes to last longer than needed anyway. Also because of the cap you get per day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So my idea would be to implement the world quests they have right now in World of Warcraft, where they're on a timer, but they get refreshed with brand new ones that replace it. And you have like a checklist you can do a day. So you don't have to go spam them the whole day, all over the, let's say, for example, the Asm step. Mm-hmm. You can just complete 4, and then you go turn it into an NPC. Once you complete at least 4 on a checklist, any of the 4 that are signified. They have certain factions and reputations, but I think somehow Square can rework to do that, or work how that operates. But just have people have a reason to go out, do something, given possible rewards of the level of the caliber. Let's say, for example, it calculates how much your item level is, and it will give you sometimes a chance to get a better piece than what you currently have right now. Let's say, for example, you're wearing 320 shoulders, it can give you sometimes a world quest of your item level and say, hey, if you do this, you have a possibility of earning a 325 shoulders instead of 320 that you have right now.
That sounds awesome.
It's like 320. 325 plus.
I think it also just makes the world feel more connected, right? Because it's like I don't feel like as a server that we're working as a team.
No, not really, not at all. But
and it's like, but we are like there should be something like that. But yeah,
they've tried that in a way with the big boss fates as well. But again, those die out pretty fast. Like Ixion and
why aren't fates still relevant at cap? And that ties to my biggest critique that XP has no value once you hit cap.
I mean, look at Ixion. You need to go do maps so you can get the item to weaken his shields so you can fight him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's definitely a trek towards it, and it's a really cool idea. I mean, like, people will go out of the way to participate in these group-oriented world quests and world events like Ixion. So I'm pretty sure there's like an itch to go out and do things on a regular. Like, I would gladly get on and count it as my dailies at least to go to Asm Step, do my 4 quests, turn it in. Go to the Locks, do my 4 quests, turn it in. I could stay in those areas for longer if I wanted to get some rewards or some extra resources, but just like World of Warcraft allows me to. I mean, it's a really good idea to get people involved and get them to at least have something to do when they get on. It doesn't take long whatsoever. It literally doesn't take long. It takes maybe 20 to 30 minutes to do all of them in World of Warcraft. But then once you've completed them, you start thinking, maybe I'll run a dungeon. Maybe I'll hit up a friend. Maybe I'll hit up a guildie, see if I want to do some mythic dungeon or something, or mythic dungeon plus. It kind of at least it lets you do something, and then you feel accomplished. And even though you're done with them, you could still get off feeling like, okay, I didn't waste my time in game, and it felt good. And I am looking forward to at least what else the rewards offer. So that'd be cool. Also, a good way to also like alt gear, since it would offer hopefully some upgrades. Just not just spamming dungeons the whole time. You have a chance of actually getting your pieces a little bit upgraded. You know.
Any other idea?
That's really the only thing that I can think of the top of my head right now. I just wanted to. We have such pretty areas. I want to have a reason to come back to them on a daily basis.
Yeah, Yoshi P in an interview said that they were working on something like that, and we haven't heard anything about it. So it's kind of like, are they still working on it? Like, what are they running into? Talking about making interesting.
Eggy Glamis.
Eggy Glamis. Where are they? They said that was coming. Like that. That's another thing that's like, oh, here you go, and then it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna do one every like patch, and then we haven't seen a single one since then.
True.
But essentially, like, kind of to that point though, is like I'm wondering what they're working on, like making that content living and breathing, and that actually is the thing I want to see the most is the conquest system brought back and refreshed in an interesting way for 14. And if anybody doesn't know what conquest was in Final Fantasy XI, basically, as you participated in zones, you represented your city. In this case, I'd say you represent your free company, your grand company. And then it's like, you get points for playing in the zone. And that actually would count instance content because instance content exists in zones. They kind of like, you would just say wherever like the dungeon is, it's like, oh, it's here. So that would count towards that overall zone. And as you play, like every week, it's like, okay, did you know and from a lore perspective, you could say the grand company, the adders kept this zone safe. We're not at war with Ulda. We're not at war with with Limsa. But who did the most good in this zone? And so you'd use that as the point. And then from that, then there can be various rewards and perks, like teleports to that zone are reduced. And
even if you did have it as like a war zone, but have it like they're like, oh, we're playing war games.
Yeah.
And this is a replica of, if we were at war, what this town would be doing. Like, oh, Ulda owns like all these.
Exactly. And so then when you look at it, there's a ton of zones in the game, right? And all of a sudden, every week, who gets the zone? And if not enough people participate in content, you still need plenty of things to do in there. That makes Fates relevant again. That makes all that. You would still have to fix the XP problem. It's like, what do you do with XP at cap?
Points,
we used to have the problem is that we actually used to have a system for XP at cap. It was called Spirit Bonding. You could go, and that's how you got Matera. or materia, or however the hell you pronounce it. So you would go and you could still get XP was still funneling into spirit bonding, which you then would turn into materia, and then that you could use that to put into your gear, or you could sell it. And so that's where it's like, oh man. And then because of the way it's handled now with drops, and I actually agree that, it's being that it's more prevalent means more people get to participate in it, and it's not a jillionaire's end game where they can just purchase whatever they need. It ends up being way more accessible, which is good, but it's like we didn't ever replace that system for XP at level cap, and that's the drum that I hit. Why do I not go tank a leveling roulette? Because there's no reason to. And I want there to be a reason to. I love tanking, and the game doesn't feed me a reason to do it. And it's not that it has to feed me specifically. I don't want this to be the only, I don't want them to only listen to Brian. That's why I want this conversation. And that's where it's like, I think we're kind of hitting up on interesting things: social features, more world events, and then that's what I like. Actually, what I liked about Eureka and the Diadem is they had different level of fates. And so, I was like, why can't they just bring that into the game? Just give the fate a different color. Make it orange or red or purple.
Oh, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, that fate ain't soloable. It's like, oh, there's a purple, a purple world fate is up. And it's like, holy crap. Can we do it? And, it's like, I don't know. It just seems like the system's there. They've already built it for Diadem and for Eureka.
I'll be honest, I still want my idea of this might sound weird, but a gathering DPS fate, where basically, let's just say, oh look, the farm is ready to harvest, but there's enemies outside about to try and steal the food.
Yeah,
they've got gatherers coming in to gather the food to try and get away from the monsters, and then the other adventurers killing the monsters.
Oh, that's actually kind of cool. Actually, I would like to see that. That'd be cool.
You have that, and then that feeds right into the conquest, etc. Is that crafting and gathering? You're doing things, you're turning in your turn-ins, and that is feeding the overall thing. And you can even make a zone that's focused on that. That's where it's when you look at 5.0, and let's say we do go to war with the Empire. It's you could say the Empire is really attacking the zone, and then all of a sudden it's we need crafting supplies, we need gathering supplies, we need people to go fight off their armies and go. It's all of a sudden the whole server is on alert.
Maybe crafting fates where they're like, oh, we're out of this stock of this item and it's selling well, please go and craft it. And it gives you a base amount of ingredients, and it adds to the special recipes.
Yeah. I think that'd be cool.
That'd be cool.
I'm in for that. And that's not that much work. And then they could even use colors to say, this is that kind of fate. This is that kind of thing that you can now participate in and get rewards for. And I don't know if they're going to go in any of these directions. All I can do, and that's kind of what what I feel like my job kind of as a creator and as a voice in the community is to kind of sum up people's ideas, kind of add my own, and then posting them on the official forums and trying to communicate to the devs as best we can in a language that I don't speak.
Same.
It's okay, I don't speak
I know
Japanese.
what I want, I just don't know how it's put in. Use your magic, Yoshi P.
So with that, guys, we've had a longer than normal podcast. We usually try to shoot for an hour, but I'm glad you were able to jump in, Tham. I will go around table and let you guys kind of if there's anything you want to plug, or is there any kind of final thoughts that you'd like to do. I'm gonna start with Tham, and then we'll go to Chille.
Hi, my name is Tham. I stay up late nights to fix emergency issues on PC. I'm a washed-up Final Fantasy XIV player and a full-time VR chat personality extraordinaire. No, I would like to get back to doing some Final Fantasy XIV and doing MMO content, but just being caught up over with a lot of VR chat things, and that's kind of why my avatar, as you can see on the stream, is represented by my in-game avatar instead of a webcam. Well, mostly because the webcam is broken. But nevertheless, I've been primarily focusing.
Why didn't I break my webcam?
You look wonderful.
Lies.
That's a handsome man.
Handsome, very handsome.
All right, you're good.
But I just been doing lots of VR chat related. If that's something that's interests to you and you want to see some randomness over in the VR world, feel free to check me out over at you see the handle at Thamriyell over on Twitter, and that links to a lot of other videos.
Chille, plug it away.
Oh God, don't give me plugs. I'll be here forever.
He does so much.
Doing.
Go check out Phonix Down Radio. We've just recently celebrated 3 years with me, Klaus, Saya, and Luna. Though Luna, that was her last podcast, so she is staying. Yeah, she's taking a break until 5.0, but she will be a producer, and you will see her in the chat probably. And who knows, she might guest appearance on the podcast occasionally. Also, part of Phonix Down Radio is Moogle Go Around Radio, where we maybe talk about Final Fantasy, but most of it's just food. Most of it's just Nando's. So yeah, I guess it's a Final Fantasy podcast in the loosest sense possible, where we sometimes talk about it. Maybe go check that out on PhoenixDownRadio.com. I'm also part of a PlayStation podcast at PlayStation Universe, w.psu.com. You can go check us out at psu.podbean.com. We're over 250 some episodes on that show.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Congrats.
So we got rid of the numbering after 200.
All right.
And we also do an anime podcast on the same website as well, psu.podbean.com. And also go check out Master Twitch.
Be sure, Chille, to send me anything that way I can link it in the description of this video.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you guys for coming. My name's Brian. We do stuff over at Work to Game, and then I also am a part of the Thamriyell Radio podcast. We've got something I think coming up here in a week or two. I don't have a specific date. I'll have to get with Fusion, where we talk a lot about video games. And then we've got patch 4.4, which I'm excited about. But also I'm really enjoying Dragon Quest right now, so you'll probably see a lot of Dragon Quest content coming out of me, just because I love talking about games that are fun and that I love. And then you can see everybody's kind of Twitter handle and things like that. Sorry for the longer than normal podcast, but I really appreciate everybody coming on. I thank chat for hanging out, we won't be doing our wrap-up show today. Namely because I have to I need to get back to work. I take time off work for this, and and I want to make sure that Julie is doing okay too with the kids. So we'll be doing another podcast here shortly. I'll be announcing some more stuff as it becomes more solid and solidified for the future. But also, I should have said this at the top, I'm still transitioning. We are on the Google Play Store. You can listen to this podcast purely in audio form, podcast form, over on Google Play. We're still trying to figure out how to get it to work within iTunes. So lots more fun things that I am working on to get accomplished. So go subscribe to us there. Give us a review. Let us know. If you like this video, like these podcasts, be sure to sound off in the comments below. For Work to Game, my name is Brian. Thanks so much for watching this video. Thanks so much for joining us live. I will talk to you soon. Take care. You guys can wave and say goodbye.
I would wave, but I'm waving.
Thamriyell's waving in spirit, so.